Jen.
Hi, Em.
How are you?
I am doing well. I'm caffeinated, Every time I'm
She's
caffeinated, I'm doing
she's
well.
happy. It's a holiday episode. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.
We're gonna do it. And
We
lots
are
of people every
so
year,
many,
these
every
episodes, holiday survival
single
tips.
year, people are like, thank God you're doing this because I have so many questions. And
Uh,
so we're going to dive into it because there's
Especially the
1
years
million.
after an election.
Yeah.
Right. We always get this more. Okay, but so first we have an intro question, which is what topic would you give a TED talk on from Jackie?
Uh, Probably how to avoid doing a TED talk. How to avoid speaking in public in general. Do you think that's a
No,
good TED
that's
Talk
a
topic?
really good one. Mine would be how to make anyone your best friend.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Right? You could also do that one.
Yeah, definitely. But
We
like,
could do either of those, but
I
you
wouldn't
wouldn't
want
want.
to, I wouldn't want to do a TED Talk about it. I don't know if you know me, but not dying
No, not dying
speak in public.
to do the talk, to do the
Yeah.
Teddy talk. Do they? I listen. I'm going to ask something embarrassing. Do they still do TED talks? Like
Yeah,
new
I
ones
think
are coming out.
yes, yes.
Great.
Also,
Yeah, I love
okay, I'm going to ask you something, maybe also embarrassing. Who's Ted?
them.
Who is he?
I,
He must
Teddy
given a lot of
Roosevelt.
talks,
I'm not
that
sure.
Ted. It's a great question. We should look it up.
I don't know.
We'll figure it out and then we'll put it in the
Teddy's a
show
cute
notes.
name.
I don't know.
The name Teddy for boys is like back again, and it's very cute. I think.
So cute.
Right.
Yes.
I like it, Ted. What Theodore. Is that what it's short for? Theodore.
Yes.
I don't like that as much.
No, I think that's why they shortened it to Ted. Because Theodore talks. Just I don't think it flows off the tongue the same way.
It's funny because Theodore talks, you're like, fucking Theodore still talking. Ted talks, you're like, that Ted. Great guy.
Ted. Good old Ted, he's talking.
Oh, Nikki just messaged us. It's an acronym.
What's the acronym, Nikki? I'm sorry. So I guess it wasn't a person. Okay.
All right, well, just clip this bit.
Technology, entertainment, and design. Wow.
Wow. Nikki, for the record, did you know that or did you Google it? Okay, you didn't know it. Google. Okay, just making sure. All right, I will. What if everyone knew that besides us?
Yeah. I mean, clearly, no. We have one other person who didn't know.
That's enough for me.
Educating the world.
Educating the world. All right, but let's talk about holiday survival tips.
Yes.
It is a holiday season, and you might love this season. You might hate this season. You might feel like you don't give a fuck either way. But for a lot of people, the holiday season is incredibly overwhelming. Understandably, no. So, right? Like you have this family time. There's a lot of pressures around it. There is also so much I think about the sensory parts of it, the smells, the sounds that can bring up past trauma as well. That's not something we can neglect. There's often a lot of use of alcohol. There's also usually a lot of body comments, feelings, right? So there's like so many fucking layers of why the holidays could be very difficult. But for the record, Jen, what are they like for you?
I think they're lovely. I don't feel I'll tell you why. I don't feel a ton of pressure as a Jew.
As a Jew, it's easier.
Just like I don't feel a ton of pressure. Yeah. It feels like I just get a break, from my everyday. And so honestly, the hardest part of like the holiday season for me is how cold and dark it is. Like I'm so affected by the light. And so I think that is the hardest part. Like these few months really slapped me in the face with seasonal affective disorder. And I just really have to like prepare myself every single year. But the holidays, they don't really, I don't feel that level of pressure, but I hear, if you're a family that has had this tradition of like, we buy everyone gifts, there's that financial pressure. Yeah. There's that pressure of like, what do I get everyone? I think that maybe is the hardest feeling for me is like figuring out gifts. I'm horrible at gifts. It is not my best
forte.
It is not my forte. And so, right, like I could do something, but like getting gifts is not,
Yeah.
you are so good at
I'm
gifts.
really good at giving gifts.
So good at gifts. My sister-in-law, Ruthie, is so good at giving gifts too, just like excellent.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, now I can help you with your niece.
well, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's an easy
That's
one.
really
Yeah,
helpful.
good. Buying for kids is pretty easy because kids are just
Yeah.
fucking hype.
Yes. They're
Yeah.
excited about anything.
Yes, exactly. All right, so we think it's different for everyone, right? So if you're someone who's in the Northeast weather, although it is gonna be 60 degrees here today in Pennsylvania,
Right.
that global warming is changing a little bit with the holiday
Right.
season.
It's really helping.
Really helping. So we're gonna get into listener questions because it's so different for everyone. But the number one question we're going to talk about is tips for protecting your peace. So, what that tells me is there are often times around the holiday season you don't feel peace. So, one, I would say, what's fucking with your peace?
Yes.
To know how to protect yourself from something, we have to know what is really impacting us in a certain way. So, is it the financial pressure? Is it the pressure or expectation that you should be coupled up and you're a single human? Is it that you feel like you have to please your family? Whatever those things are. So, what's the pressure around it? And then, what would peace look like for you? Would it be saying to everyone, "Hey, I'm only gonna do handmade gifts this year," or you know what I mean, or I'm gonna find an easier way to do like gifts, or I'm gonna do something, something to honor in a different way. So if you can start to bring down what's the stuff that's affecting my peace, and then how am I going to handle that? Because just because you've done something one way, like I don't know, put yourself into debt every holiday season, it actually doesn't mean you have to do it that way again.
I'm laughing about that. I'm just gonna do handmade gifts this year because
What
like
would yours
what
be?
like gluing macaroni on like a frame and just like
Listen.
watching everyone open it up and being like, so
No,
so
but you could press
nice.
flowers and make a frame and get
That's
a picture
nice.
printed out. It's like literally like 70 cents to get a photo printed.
Yeah, no, there are definitely options. That was just the
Yes.
first thing that popped into my head is for whatever reason is gluing
Come on,
macaroni on
there
a
was
frame.
1 week that you made macrame, Jen.
I know. And it was beautiful. And it took way too long. And then I never did it again. I'm
And
too,
that's called an ADHD hobby.
I am way too impatient. Um, but I love what you're saying about really understanding the things that are affecting your peace. And to help you decipher what kind of boundaries do I need to set this holiday season that maybe I wasn't able to set in past holidays. I think another thing that so often comes up is, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably someone that is on a mental health journey or you've done a lot of internal work and you've learned to set boundaries. And so, or maybe you're just starting that journey. And we hear so often that people have made so many strides in like, okay, here's what I'm going to do with my family. I'm going to set these boundaries. I'm going to call when I have time. I'm going to, I'm going to talk about the things that feel right for me, or I'm going to stand up for myself. And then we hear they get home to an environment that maybe they grew up in, or they go back into a family dynamic that they grew up in and they experience this regression. And so I just say that to almost prep you for that and to also let you know that if that happens, that does not mean that all of the work that you have done goes out the window. When you are in a family dynamic, the one that kind of built all of those defenses, all of those family rules, it's so easy to fall back into those old dynamics. And so I just want you to anticipate that if you are going back into your childhood home, if you're going to be spending a lot of time with family where this was built to begin with. But it does not mean that you as a person are regressing. It's just in that moment, it really brings your shit up.
The regression is real.
It's so real. So real.
Like it just happens, especially around like all these people you grew up with. Like for some reason, you can really quickly turn into exactly who you were 20 years ago.
Yes. It happens so naturally
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be
Um,
hard on yourself for that. I would just notice it, like notice when that's happening and saying, is this aligning with who I am now? And if not, what do I want to do? Right? Can I be a little more conscious of that process? And do I want to make changes in that process? What does
Uh,
that look like?
so
Go ahead.
somebody wrote in running around a split time, but both sides of the family are dissatisfied. Help. I guess they're going to be dissatisfied.
Yep.
It's interesting because the majority of the questions we got were something like this. I've tried all these different ways to split the time and everyone's still upset. Or I tried to set this boundary with my mother-in-law and she's still upset. The thing is, people write in wanting us to give them a secret code of how to make the other person act better. There is no equation we can give you of splitting holiday time that is not going to possibly disappoint or upset someone. You cannot control other people's reactions. And so the question is, how do you handle the distress of upsetting someone? So my family's dissatisfied. No matter what I fucking do, I try to do it perfectly. It's a goddamn 50-50, beautiful, even split. And still I'm getting looks and winks and passive aggressive bullshit. I guess that's just how it's going to be. That isn't fair. It sucks. It's difficult to sit with. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, though.
That idea that we have to do something or could change something to make sure that everyone's happy, when you are stuck in that and you're running around trying to make sure everyone's happy, my guess is that the person who ends up the most unhappy is you. And so you really have to think about the fact that no matter what, you are not going to make everyone happy, whether it's the
Yeah.
holidays or whether it's you doing anything else. And so to be really conscious of like, what do you need in order to make yourself happy? Be conscious of other people. I'm not saying just make yourself happy and go, fuck everyone else, but you can be conscious of other people and also say, okay, I don't have control over their emotions. I have to make a choice that's right for me and my family and set the boundaries that I need. And then I can sit in the distress of them being unhappy.
Yeah. So somebody said how. People want to know how to manage splitting time with families. So I'm going to give you a few different examples of how you could do this and also know that these are not the only ways to do things, right? Some people make a decision to do a 50-50 split. I do Thanksgiving with one family and I do my December holiday with another family, right? I do breakfast with one family and dinner with the other family. Some folks decide to do something we would consider like a triage, right? So one person, it's probably going to be Grammy's last Christmas. Well, then probably we're going to go spend that Christmas with Grammy, right? And so sometimes you triage it. Which family needs it more? How it's my let's say it's my first Christmas without my dad. So I really want to be with my mom and with my family home. I can understand that, right? How do we work together as a couple? Um, and then some people actually choose to not give a shit about being fair and do what they like. And so what that might mean is you want to know what I understand for years and years and years, we've gone to my mom's in the morning of Christmas. But this year, I actually want to see my kids open their presents under their tree. And so, even though that's going to probably upset someone, this is what I want to do for my family.
You know what I think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I didn't want to
please.
interrupt you.
No, I want to know.
You know what I think often happens too is that like if you're kind of stuck in this tradition or there's like one side of the family that's always like, okay, here's what we're going to do for this holiday, right? It's not,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to come? Do you want to join us? Like here's what we're going to do with the expectation you're already coming.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like that so often happens in the communication of like, oh,
Assumptions.
here's what we're going to do. Yeah. There's an assumption of you're just coming. And so it maybe gives us less time to respond to say, actually, I'm going to be doing XYZ. Actually, I'm going to be doing this, this, and this. And so, we often feel like if I didn't set that boundary to begin with, I can't go back and say, oh, I'm, planning on spending a time with my family. It's Grammy's last Christmas. And so I just want to put it out there to give you permission to go back and be able to say, like, I understand that I said that I was coming. I've really thought about this. And this year, I really want to spend it with my family. And so, maybe we can go out to breakfast on Sunday or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, instead of trying to make everyone happy or trying to go to 1 million gatherings, so you're stressed out and you don't get to enjoy any of your time, um, you're allowed to go back and say, listen, I've really thought about this, and this is what makes sense for us this year.
Yeah. And it's okay that that doesn't make sense to someone else.
Right.
The number one thing we're going to hit home here is you're going to piss some people off. Or upset some people, right? And these people is always like, oh, but my mom's so sad. Like someone could be hurt and it doesn't mean you cause them harm.
Yeah. Oof.
And sometimes the holidays hurt.
You know what? I didn't ask you, and I'm so sorry. How are you feeling about the holidays coming up?
I don't know. My house is under construction. So like I'm not really thinking about literally anything else. I went into, Natalia that works here, who's like just this wonderful, perfect little angel. I went into her house the other day and it is decked the fuck out for Christmas. It's the most beautiful. It looks like a Hallmark movie. I've never seen a Hallmark movie, but it's what I imagine a Hallmark movie would look like. It looks like freaking Anthropology in there. And it's like, it's not even Thanksgiving yet. One, two, I'm like, oh my God. She was like, when are you going to decorate for Christmas? And I was like, I can't even think about doing that this year. Like my house is covered in dust. There's so much shit everywhere. I have no idea. So, like I said, like some years it's a triage situation.
But you know what?
That,
You know what's wonderful about that is that, like, instead of putting pressure on yourself to be like, I have to make this a certain way.
yeah.
Right? You're saying, well, like, this is the situation right now.
This is all I got.
This is all I got. The dust is the snow.
It does. It does. All I know is that if I don't get Millie a Barbie dream house, she she may never talk to me again. She brings up Barbie dream houses all day long.
Ow.
Yes. And I said to her, I said, well, we have to wait and see if Santa brings one. And she said, you could just buy it on Amazon, Mom, with your money.
She is getting smart.
And I said, we're gonna write Santa. Now she can like write and like start to read, right? So like I'm like, you can write a list to Santa. She's like, but you
And
have Amazon on your
Santa's gonna buy it on Amazon.
Santa will buy it on Amazon.
I think that's maybe like find the middle ground there, right? Santa is Amazon.
But I feel like I'm not someone who puts a lot of pressure on myself. You want to know what? I also think it's because I'm not on social media. I don't have this pressure to take a family photo. I don't have this pressure of how shit looks to other people. I'm like, however we show up is how we're all showing up, y'all. And so I think it feels a little bit different. Also, we've been able to navigate like in-law stuff. So like I'm going to Thanksgiving at my parents' house, and the next day we're going to spend the weekend with my in-laws. So we're spending more time with my in-laws, but not the actual day of Thanksgiving.
Wow.
So, you know what I mean? Like we figured out different ways to navigate through this that work for both of us. Yeah, I don't feel a ton of pressure.
Do you feel like that took time though, figuring that out?
Oh my God. I feel like the first few years of being married or being together, we were both like, we're not giving in.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, my grandmother's going to die soon. He was like, my grandmother's going to die soon. And so the first few years of marriage, we actually did it separately. It wasn't that we started doing it together until we had a kid.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of like, okay, like it's a lot to travel. My parents live closer, so like there's different stuff like that. But I do feel like the very beginning, because a few people said, someone wrote in and asked out, oh, how did, yeah, so yeah, I'm newly married. How to navigate guilt tripping when splitting time between family and in-laws. So I don't feel like we really had that from either of our parents. Our parents have been like willing and able to like change some shit around. Yeah.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, is that like, that it's okay if you need to split up during the holiday, if that feels okay for you guys, right? Like you want to spend time with your family, your partner wants to spend time with their family. You guys split up, during that time, and once you had kids, it changed for you guys.
Yeah. And
so for you to be able to say like, okay, now things are changing, and so we're going to make a different decision. And I think that that's important, is that like sometimes we hold on so strongly to traditions that it sends us into a place of rigidity that is no longer working for us
Yeah.
anymore. And so I just, maybe look at the places that you're holding on to that rigidity and it's keeping you from figuring out what's actually working for us now.
Yeah. So the first few years of Millie's life, we would wake up on Christmas morning, do Christmas morning with my family, and then drive 7 hours to my in-laws on Christmas Day to get there for Christmas dinner. Now Millie sure as shit doesn't want to do that, right? Because she's gonna wake up on Christmas morning, she wants to open her gifts and she wants to play with them all day long with her cousins. And so that no longer worked for us. It
That Barbie
worked
dream house.
that
Can't wait.
she
I
already
didn't
has
even
it, this huge dollhouse.
I
I'm like,
didn't
oh, I
even
have to
know.
get
What
her.
is a Barbie dream house?
There's probably a new one every year.
It's still going?
Yeah, well, I looked it up, it's like $170, dude.
Oh my God, inflation.
And then she was like, she was
Even
like, I
Barbie's
also want a Barbie
experiencing
RV. And I
inflation.
was like, oh, fuck yeah, babe. Van life, cheaper.
Yeah, great. We love that.
The RV is only $80.
Okay. Still Barbie. What's the
God.
interest rate on that thing? Hard to
That's what it's
say.
gonna be.
High. I guess.
Okay. Um, how to spend equal time with both parents, signs an adult child of newly divorced parents.
Oh,
So a few things. Fair doesn't always mean equal. What does equal mean to you? And what are the expectations and messaging you're getting from those newly divorced parents?
I think the holidays, especially as an adult, right? You're experiencing your parents going through this divorce, like your whole family is having to adjust and figure this out. Like you're in such a period of transition in general. And because, if you're an adult and you're out of the house, it might not be directly in your face, the divorce, until the holidays,
Yeah.
right? Like you might have not had to experience like as much what this is like until the holidays come up and you have to make decisions like this. So, I just say that so that like you can be patient with yourself in navigating this, that, to have conversations with both parents of like, I'm figuring this out. Maybe one year I'm doing, as we said, I'm doing Thanksgiving at mom's, and Christmas at dad's. And then next year it's going to change. Um, and so, but I think being very transparent with your parents to say, I'm navigating this too, right? I have to figure this out. I know this is new for you, but you are also, the child in the situation. This is going to bring up emotion for you. And so for you to just be very transparent of like, I'm still figuring this out too. Can you give me some time to process this and figure out what works for me? Um, this might bring up a lot of grief for you that your holidays no longer look like they once looked, your entire life. I think there's a lot of emphasis on like when parents divorce when we're children and, like how do you navigate two houses or like what that looks like. But as an adult, there's grief that comes with that too. And because your tradition, maybe a tradition that you always pictured that brought you joy, comfort, it now has to change. And it's changing, in a way that's completely out of your control. So give yourself time and grace to grieve if you need to grieve and kind of navigate this in your own way.
Do you want to do a role play?
Sure.
Okay, well, there's a question that I think would be a good role play question.
Okay.
How to confidently hold boundaries so my own little family can actually enjoy Christmas.
Who am I?
Who do you want to be?
Okay. Just give me the scenario first.
Okay, so the scenario is I am parents and I have two young kids.
Okay.
And this year I want to spend Christmas morning on our own without any grandparents.
Okay. And so am I the pushy grandparent?
Do you want to be? That seems like a fun role.
Yeah, it does. That I would
Okay,
love to be.
so you can be a pushy grandparent.
Okay.
And you're gonna call me on the phone and you're gonna ask what my plans are for Christmas morning.
Okay.
Okay.
Bring.
Hi, Mom. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm real stressed out about planning the holidays, your father, blah, blah, blah. And, I'm decorating the house and I cannot wait for you to come over. And it would be really great if you could bring an apple pie and help me decorate as soon as possible.
Mom, the holidays can be so overwhelming. I'm sorry it's feeling stressful for you already, and we still have a few weeks to go. We cannot wait to come and see you on Christmas Eve, and I will absolutely bring you that apple pie. Just want to give you a heads up that on Christmas morning, the kids really want to wake up here, and we're going to give them some time to play with their gifts and to sit in their jammies and not go anywhere. And then I'll give you a call in the afternoon and let you know where we're at.
Oh, it's really disappointing for me because I assumed that, you would bring the kids over here. I got presents for them. I assumed that they were going to come over and wake up here and open them in the morning.
I'm so sorry I didn't communicate that earlier. I had no idea you assumed that. Would it be okay for us to open up those gifts on Christmas Eve? I think that would be actually even more extra special for them.
I guess my voice is getting more and more annoying.
Why is it so getting so
I'm not sure.
nasally?
I'm not sure. It just feels right. But that was beautiful.
So, right? So, like, I think that there is a way to find empathy. So, a disarming is find some truth in anything that they say, right? You're right. This is stressful. Oh, wow. I'm sorry I didn't communicate that. I'm sorry you made that assumption. I didn't realize you thought that. So, finding some truth in anything they're saying and then doubling on that boundary,
You
right?
know, when you said to me, I'm so sorry that's been so stressful for you, I just felt so validated and disarmed.
And disarmed. So finding some truth in what they're saying. If you don't, here's the hard thing is if you are defensive, someone will get more reactive back. So if you don't get defensive about it, if you just own it of like, listen, you have to sort of get right with your own values and center yourself of like, this is actually the right thing for my family.
And you could have gone in a million different ways, right? Like you could have said in this scenario, you could have said, Mom, why would you assume that? Like I had said that I wasn't coming over and right? Like there were so many times
Yeah.
in which you could have gotten defensive in that conversation. Or mom, I'm so busy. Why would you expect me to come over and
Because
help
my
you?
guilt
Right.
would have been telling me to be defensive, right? I would have been actually uncomfortable with your discomfort.
Right. And if you didn't feel solid within yourself of like, this is the right decision for me, and you felt guilt from your mom, it's so much easier to get defensive because you don't feel solid in your decision.
Yeah.
So to feel really good about your decision of like, this is what's right for me and my family, mom might be disappointed and that's okay, right? She's
Yeah.
allowed to be disappointed. If it's not my responsibility to make sure that she's happy all the time. I have to navigate my family and then talk to her and find some compromise in there, right? When if mom has always been so used to taking control of the holiday
Mm-hmm.
and you're responding back by saying, listen, I have to do this thing, maybe she feels out of control. The way in which she deals with that is to react to you, is to guilt you. And so for you to see that, acknowledge that guilt and decide, do I want to react to this? Or am I just going to acknowledge that this is hard for her? And at the same time, I still have to hold my boundary.
All right. Um, you want to talk about the election?
Oof, where do you see
There's a
that?
lot of those questions. Head down to 23 and on.
Yeah.
I'm the only
Yeah.
liberal in my family. How to survive Thanksgiving. Only Dem in a in-law house full of loud Republicans help.
Oof. That's a good one. Well, we're doing a part two also.
Okay,
So
we can talk more about that. Here's what I would say. One, how are you doing? And do you have space to try to be having conversations? There are some times when we are not doing well and we can't take on a house full of loud Republicans. And that's it. And that doesn't mean that you don't stand for justice. It doesn't mean you don't stand for your beliefs, any of those things. Sometimes it's just like, what's the point of the fight? What are you going to do?
it's also very fresh, right? Like
Go fresh.
emotionally, it is very
Yeah.
fresh. Um, so I think for you to decide, like, what do you need? And listen, if you're asking us this question, you're already prepared.
Yeah.
right? Like you're already saying like this is going to be a topic of conversation. People might bring things up. Um, and so you get to decide what you need in those moments. Do you want to engage in a discussion about it? What's
Yeah.
that going to do? You know, like really ask you, what will that do in that moment to engage in that discussion?
You know, somebody said how to deal with anger towards family members who voted differently than you. And I think this is something that you and I have been discussing a lot. And I think one of the things I've had to come to terms with is people that voted differently than me genuinely think it was a better option.
Yeah.
They genuinely think that that's going to be better for the world. And hey, I really fucking hope that they are right. I hope that the world is better for everyone and that nobody loses their rights. And I want to sit here and say, like, absolutely. Do I believe that? No, I don't. But I also have to believe that I guess that's what people really fucking thought.
Yeah.
That's what their values. And then it also tells me is, wow, I have a really different value system than this other person, right? It just is. And then you have to say, okay, so if I have such a magnificently different value system than someone else, what can my relationship look like with them? I don't need to have the same value system as another mom at pickup at school. I don't. That's fine. It doesn't mean I'm not going to send my kid to her kid's birthday party. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that. But for, yeah, my best friend or my partner, I need to have the same value system.
And I think that that is kind of the question that's going around of like, is for me, does this break up a relationship? Does this change my relationship with the people around me? What kind of relationship do I want to have? And listen, there's no right or wrong. Like you get to decide this
Yeah.
for yourself. Um, and there's a lot of people saying, right? Like, how could you be friends with someone or how could you? That's what's right for them. You get to decide what's right for you. Um, and so to be also like an observer during, Thanksgiving, during the holidays to figure out, um, like what is this like for me to sit with this, to be someone who has these like really strong values and is around a lot of people who have like very different values, like what kind, like really being an observer of yourself in that situation. And in those relationships to like understand what that's like for you. And then you get to make a decision. You get to set certain boundaries. You get to figure out, like, do I need to step out? Do I want to engage in conversation? Do I want to shut down the conversation?
Do I
Like,
want to go?
right. Do
You
I want to
actually
go?
don't have to go to the holidays. You might go to a chosen family's holiday
Yes.
if you're really in that tough of a place, right? Like, what does it do? I can tell you this, it doesn't do anything for the world for you to put yourself through additional pain and suffering. It just doesn't. So you get to also decide for yourself what you do at this time based on where you're at.
Why do you think we believe that it like does things for the world to like put ourselves through? You know
I'm
what I mean?
sure there is like deep, deep cultural narratives around
Yeah.
suffering and like what suffering does.
Yes. Oof, that can be another episode.
Okay. All right. But
Dear
till
Em and
then,
Jen.
oh yeah, we have a Dear Em and Jen. Yes, please.
Okay. Dear Em and Jen, hi, thank you for the podcast. I love it. My question: how do you maintain healthy boundaries with someone who does not respect the boundaries? And by someone, I mean my mother in law. In the last 18 years, I've tried to create healthy boundaries, but in response, my mother in law throws a tantrum and creates drama. I feel like I have 18 years of examples where she has deliberately crossed boundaries. I feel exhausted with trying to come up with new boundaries. Oof, that sounds fun, fun for you.
Here's a
Um,
question.
yeah,
Does she still respect? All right. So the mother-in-law throws a tantrum and creates drama. Does she still respect the boundary? She's not fucking happy about it. That's for goddamn sure. That's very clear. But she still
throws a
respects
tantrum,
it?
creates it hard to say, like, what's the drama, right?
Right? So, like, my question is there is, once again, there is no perfect way we can teach you to say something that's going to make your mother in law act differently. You've done this for 18 years. I would imagine you've tried many different ways over those 18 years, right? Jen and I are good. We ain't 18 years worth of other additional bullshit good. Okay. But the question is, you keep thinking if you do it differently, she's going to act differently. If she's been doing this for 18 years, that's probably not true.
At this point, I would say just expect the tantrum.
Yeah.
Her tantrum, the drama that's being created, doesn't mean that you should stop setting the boundary.
Maybe you say it, maybe you don't say it, right? Maybe you just set a physical boundary. Maybe it's not like, hey, you're not going to come to my daughter's birthday party. Maybe you just literally don't tell her the time and place of the birthday party. Right? So is it that you have to completely withhold information?
That brought up another thought for me is like, how much are you explaining yourself to try to get her to not throw the tantrum, and it might be more important in this specific dynamic to take any of the emotion out of it. Just like take that emotion out.
Yeah. Because people are who they are.
And sometimes when you over explain, there's more opportunity for the tantrum, for the drop. Just set the boundary strong, right? And let her throw the tantrum.
And you should really read Nedra's book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, and do the workbook if you haven't.
Yes.
Only because I think it's really helpful for like giving less of a fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not going to teach you, once again, it's not going to get your mother-in-law to act differently. That's never going to happen, but it's going to help you of how to handle when she does this.
Yes, so good. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating, review, and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.